together so they can try things. Young Politics Podcast so that you can try things. Now we will stop singing so that we can all now try this.
Hello and welcome to Now Try This, the podcast where two best friends get together every week to try something new. I'm Marcus, and that's Nick. Hello, Nick. How are you doing today?
I am doing fine because it is time for me to rhyme on the podcast because we're going to sing a song for not too long. And Marcus has a big gold dong. Do. Guys, welcome to Now Try This. We are reviewing today Up Here. Why? Because it's Marcus's challenge and he challenged me to watch it and we watched the first season and that's what we're doing here today. But before we get to that, quick business, head on over to patreon.com/nowtrythiscast to submit and soon vote on the suggestions for next month. This month we did John Wick. It was a good time. It was a good episode that hopefully our editor will be able to edit soon and you guys will be able to listen to very soon. And then it's me. I'm the editor. I have to edit it. And you guys will love it because you won't be able to listen to that until you won't be able to listen to this until I edit that. So welcome to the life of a podcaster. We are here. We challenge each other and you guys get involved once a month. Head on over to patreon.com/nowtrythiscast.
If anything, that is more incentive for you guys to head over to twitch.tv/nowtrythiscast and watch us live or catch the stream a couple of days after, because you know what? That shit's not edited. You can just catch it whenever you want to catch it. You can join the conversation. And if you've got opinions, if you're tired of us speaking a certain way about something and you want to voice your opinion about something, join us live.
Yeah, honestly, it's wonderful to join us live. We have a little community here, and you get to give us your criticism in real time. We will address you probably live, and you could really piss us off. So go for it and mess with us. It's a great.
You can also get blocked, which is an honor, I would say.
It's an honor. And I will talk to our moderator. I am sure she is trigger happy. I'm sure she is waiting in the wings to just ban. We've given her this power. We don't have enough people over here for her to abuse that power. She would love to abuse it. Please come on over to twitch.tv/nowtrythiscast. Get banned. But Marcus, before we get to Up Here, let me tell you what our challenge is next week.
Can you do it in song?
Yeah, what kind of song?
Okay.
What genre?
Razzmatazz. This is genre.
Yeah, 100%. If you wanna be here next Tuesday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, you'll be witnessing two friends talk about James Gunn's Guardians of the Galaxy. Marcus, next week we were doing Guardians of the Galaxy. That's my challenge to you. Marcus, this came out of nowhere. I had no idea. I'm not trying to be timely. I'm a little behind, but I watched it and I thought, oh, that's the challenge for next week.
Okay.
So next week we will be doing Guardians of the Galaxy 3.
Guardians of the Galaxy.
Maybe the last James Gunn Marvel film ever. Who knows?
Did he sign a contract with DC that doesn't let him do Marvel stuff?
He just doesn't have time.
That's true.
He has to do all of DC now.
That's true.
He's in charge of all of it.
He's got a big job.
To be fair, if he messes up Superman, he won't have a job anymore. So maybe he'll go back to Marvel.
That's true. That's true.
I feel so bad, and we'll talk more about it next week, but he has so much riding on that script and that casting and that directing that movie. And I think he's got everything in his favor. I think enough people are rooting for him. I think people want it.
Yeah.
I'm rooting for him, and I think he's great. So anyway, next week, Guardians of the Galaxy 3. Watch it, Marcus, and we will talk about it here.
I think he can pull it off for sure.
Yeah. I'm just hoping during our Guardians episode, we talk way more about Superman. That's my goal. Because if you watch any of the interviews about Guardians of the Galaxy 3, a lot of it has to do with this DC stuff. And I'm like,
that's interesting.
It's very funny. He's like, cool, yeah, Guardians of the Galaxy, you did such a good job. So when you get to Superman, what do you...
That's fun.
But of course, that's the nature of it. That's the nature. Oh my goodness. Thank you, Nick Nack Nieves, for coming over to the Twitch and using your Prime to subscribe for 22 months. Wow. What a real fan.
Amazing. That's a true dedicated fan. If you have your Twitch Prime subscription, remember to use it for free. use those Bezos bucks, stick it to Jeff Bezos, and give us some of his cash.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's just sitting there,
Yeah.
not being
Marcus,
used.
is there anything else you'd like to talk about before we get to up here? Because I don't have too much to say. I haven't tried anything new. I have Guardians. We're gonna watch it. Oh, I have been watching Smash, the
That's-
musical.
that's not new.
Ironically, another musical show that's very old.
Yeah.
And I'm so sorry if I don't get watch anything new by the time my challenge comes around again. That will be my next challenge. But that's all I've been doing. I'm going back into the recesses and watching some old stuff. What about you?
You know what? I'll say it on the podcast. You know this. I've been working on a board game. I'm not going to talk much about the board game because it's still very early in the playtesting phases, but it's been consuming all of my being. But it's been great. It's been really fun. I've been trying to join like the board game design community and get ideas for stuff and like talk to people there, and everyone's been incredibly helpful. It's a very nice community that I didn't expect.
On Reddit, on
Facebook and Discord.
Facebook and Discord.
Mm-hmm. I'm sure that there's also Reddits for a couple of things, but I'm not really.
Yeah,
on
but
Reddit
Reddit's
like
usually
that.
toxic, which is why I was surprised when you said that.
Yeah,
which is why-
no. This YouTuber started a board game design lab Facebook page, and everyone's very helpful and friendly.
Nice.
And a
Until
lot
you
of
see your
people-
board game Kickstarted next week, right?
What happened?
Until you see your board game Kickstarted next week by somebody else.
Yeah, that's true. That's the scary part about this whole thing.
It is scary.
But I've been like watching a million videos, learning so much from all these people. And there's like a couple of pieces of advice for like game design and honestly for anything that's been helpful is that like anything you're gonna try to do has already been done in some way. Just make it your own. And that's the best thing you can do.
Yeah, I love that advice for all of life.
Yeah.
Like, why not start a podcast with your best friend that you can talk about movies, even though everyone's doing that, right?
Exactly. Who cares? It's
But nobody's us.
exactly. Look, we're doing something unique. Nobody else is us two specific guys talking about the movies that they love.
Or we're doing something you, Nick, and Marcus.
I thought you were trying to trademark a new word. Oh, that's very unique of you. What? I like it.
Get it? It's both of us. Is the word unique.
I like it.
That's what I
like
did.
it.
I
like it.
replaced Nick with Nick and then added you on because we're a duo that does comedy here on this podcast. At least we like to call it comedy.
I love it. Look, I'm laughing. That's what matters.
I'm laughing.
Who cares?
That's the only reason I tell jokes, to make myself laugh. Great. I'm so excited to play. I'm so excited for us to play online.
Mm-hmm.
That's so going to be so fun.
Mm-hmm.
If anyone wants to see that,
Yeah.
we would totally turn into a board game show.
Yeah, 100%. So they highly recommend, because of COVID, it's changed everything, but they highly recommend you like put your game online. There's a Tabletop Simulator and Tabletopia are two websites where they're badly made and everyone is like, yes, these are the worst made websites ever. It feels like playing board games with scissors for hands, but
it's there.
It's there and
it.
it's good and it's useful and it gets the job done. So yeah, we could always stream it or something.
Amazing. I'm so excited. Give us one nugget, one little tidbit nugget thing about it. Get us excited.
Goblin themed.
What kind of goblins? Goblins like
there's all different kinds of goblins with different abilities and stuff.
Oh my goodness. Whoa. Is there a hobgoblin?
There's hobgoblin inspired goblins. Every goblin you can think of. There's goblins after like my favorite film and TV stuff. There's references, a lot of goblin references to things I like.
Is there a Bugs Bunny trying to be inside of a rocket goblin? No, those aren't goblins.
There's not. There's a Godzilla
that's not
goblin.
goblins. What is that? What are the things that
Gremlins?
Is that what like messes with technology? And I first saw it in a Bugs Bunny a rocket.
I know what you're talking about.
And they were like messing with the technology, and the bugs found them. It's not goblins. It's something really close to goblins. Not trolls.
Gremlins? No.
Gremlin. If you know, let us know.
Okay.
Get in the chat. Get in the chat. Get in the comments. Let us know.
There's a John McClane goblin. His name is John McRoblin, the Die Hard Goblin,
aka Die Hard.
Yeah. That's the vibe of the game.
Amazing. That sounds so cool. I think everyone's already excited about it. I can't wait to play. Marcus, you gave me up here what is Up Here? Because not a lot of people have seen it.
That's really interesting that you say that because I 100% agree. Up Here is a musical TV show that's on Hulu that I actually watched trying to mind game the podcast. And I was like, Nick is obviously going to give me this show. It has Cisco from The Flash. It's got Mae Whitman. It's a musical TV show. Like, this is going to be the next podcast challenge. Let me get a head start and watch a couple episodes.
Yeah.
So I was like, great. I watched a couple episodes. Not the next challenge. Fine. It'll be the next one after that. Kept watching more. Not the next challenge after that either. And it pretty much seemed like it was never going to come up as a challenge from you. And you kept telling me you hadn't watched it yet. And I was like, well, I've watched all of it now. And I cried many times during the show. And it resonated with me in a big way. And so I figured I would give it to you as a challenge.
I meant to watch it. It was been on my radar as soon as you see a musical show. But our last like 2 months have just been weird with vacations and trips and family visiting and holidays and Patreon challenges. I've only had one challenge
Yeah.
in the last like month and a half. So I haven't had to watch anything for the podcast. So it just, it was just falling back on the list. I mean, because Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, the new season's out.
Oh, yeah, true.
Lexi just mentioned she wanted to check out Sherlock, so that's on our list. We still haven't watched White Lotus, and we want to get on that bandwagon. We just finished Steven Universe, so it was on the log. But when you said you were watching it, I was like, oh, cool. Yeah, I'll probably watch it and then challenge him. And then again, and then you were like, I'm challenging you. Yeah. And I was like, where am I? This podcast hinges on the fact that you give me Die Hard and horror movies. And I give you rom-coms and musicals.
Yeah.
And here you are giving me a rom-com musical show. And I guess that means next week I'm giving you the horror movie Hard Dying with Bruce Willis. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't know what do I challenge? Like, I mean, I'm giving you Guardians of the Galaxy because I just saw it. But like, I got to go find a horror movie or something to give you. I got to go like change up what's happening here. But yeah,
I think all that says is that I'm growing. And that you need to branch out a little bit more. Okay, you've influenced me. I'm growing. And you need to grow out of your comfort zone because I know you never watch horror movies ever. Just kidding.
I do a good chunk.
You do. You 100% watch horror movies.
I do. Now I'm just looking like, what was the last challenge that I gave that was like against type? And I'm looking.
Is there not much? There has to be something.
No. Inline. Giving you Wormwood was inline.
Yeah.
Giving you Patreon. Giving you Starstruck, a rom-com, inline.
Oh my
Made in
goodness.
Manhattan. That's like classic Nick.
That's classic Nick.
Doctor Strange, classic Nick. Severance was you. That was Patreon. Unordinary, a webcomic that no one reads, classic Nick. Reacher.
Yeah, that's
a show no one gives a shit about, classic. Pokemon, Legends of
Reacher is very much a Mission Impossible vibes, and I feel like you love Mission Impossible.
Yes. Hawkeye, Zoe's Extraordinary Playlist, Sex in the City. Looking down the list of podcast challenges, Bratz movie, I feel like it throws me off because it's not every other one is mine because we have Patreon stuff in there.
Yeah.
So I get confused.
And the Patreon sometimes
a rom-com anime, Love is War. I mean, dude, I haven't given an off. All right, I'm gonna have to think about this. I need to find like a really offbeat. I just saw 2 reality show dating competition shows, The Perfect Match and The Bachelorette. What am I doing? What am I doing with my life? A Saw movie? I gave you a Saw movie. I mean,
that's what the podcast is. So it would be weird if it was very different than your usual thing.
Well, you're doing that.
That's fair.
I'm not growing.
Is this?
Called me out.
I work, off for Broadway. I love musicals. It's not that out of my weird wheelhouse. It's the same way Saw is out of your wheelhouse. You love Saw. I love musicals.
I guess that's true, but like you watched the show because you thought I was giving it to you, right?
That is
like
true.
I need to watch something that I think you're gonna give to me,
Uh-huh.
and that I need to do. Well, anyway, this was on my radar for the same reasons. I love Cisco, love Mae Whitman. Mae Whitman from Parenthood, Scott Pilgrim, Avatar.
Yes.
Love Mae Whitman. She's fantastic. Always love her. And then Cisco stole my heart in The Flash. Those first couple seasons of Flash, I think are some of the best seasons of television. Definitely the best superhero. And I mean, I knew off the top of my head the name of the director of the show, Thomas Kail.
Mhm.
And he was a big part of the show and helped make it and directed it because he's the director of Hamilton.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he directed In the Heights and Hamilton, and he's Lin-Manuel Miranda's longtime collaborator for Style Love Supreme as well. So
Oh, okay. I saw that.
I never saw State of Grace, Mae Whitman on State of Grace. Should I go back and check that out? I love kind of watching old. It sounds like a ABC Family show.
I never heard of State of Grace either, so I have no idea.
It sounds
what
like
that
a
is.
ABC Family show, right?
Yeah.
Like something like that. And
Yeah.
I love going back and watching those shows because they're so bad.
So it's funny that there's so many reasons to watch this, but
Yeah.
it's so funny. I'm looking at it now that you're talking about, like, just going over overview of the show. I didn't notice that the score is 56% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Marcus, let me finish. So I go in
You hated
and
the show.
hold on, and I go in and now while I'm preparing, I realize who else is involved. Steven Levinson helped write it. He won a Tony for writing Dear Evan Hansen, which I think the things that happen in that play are the things that are wrong with it. So it's the music that kills, not the book. But he also helped write the screenplay for Tick Tick Boom, which
Oh, that's cool. That was
amazing.
great.
And then I thought, well, who were the songwriters? And I looked Robert Lopez. I don't know that name off the top of my head, but then I look and he has an EGOT because he collaborated to make the music for Book of Mormon,
Wow.
for Avenue Q, for the
Wow.
Frozen movies and Coco.
I wouldn't say Frozen is where I know.
He has pedigree. I mean, Avenue Q, one of my favorite musicals from on Broadway. Book of Mormon, one of my favorite things on Broadway. They are so funny. They're so dynamic. They're so interesting. So I
Yeah.
looked down this list and it's just like, wow, whoever made the show, like originally, whoever's like big idea was like, let's get all the who's who of everyone on board. And then this is the show they made. So you tell me why you gave it to me and what you enjoyed about this TV series called Up Here that, as you say, has a 56% on Rotten Tomato and 88% audience score.
So there's a husband-wife duo of Robert Lopez and Kristen Anderson Lopez. I want to give Kristen Anderson her fair time in the sun as well. But they both worked on Frozen together and they both worked on the show together.
Mhm.
Well, it's also based on Up Here, which is by them, which I guess, I don't know if it was
It could
something
have been
they
a
wrote
song
or whatever.
cycle.
Who
It
knows?
could have been a short something they made.
But as to the reason I gave it to you, I feel like when I was watching it, there were so many character moments that really resonated with me and that I thought were really fun to see on screen and weren't stuff that we see on screen all the time in TV shows and movies. And they had a relationship that felt real, and you were seeing their internals, their internal dialogue, and they each have these like voices in their heads that are constantly like telling them that they're terrible, or basically representing the like people around them who had some kind of major influence in their lives, and they sing songs. And so that I was like, wow, you see that kind of stuff in shows. It's not like it's never been done before, but the way it was done in this show in particular, I thought was really good. And I feel like it really resonated with me. The character of Carlos, the character of Miguel, played by Carlos Valdez, I was like projecting hard onto him. And even Mae Whitman, there were a lot of things that she was going through that I was like, oh, I can really resonate with that. I really feel like I've thought that way before. I've been that way before in relationships. And seeing them growing and trying to work on themselves and trying to figure their own shit out so that way they can have a meaningful relationship. Granted, they weren't going to therapy, but they were trying to work through the stuff. Was also another thing that I really resonated with, that I feel like I've been trying really hard. I'm going to therapy. I'm trying really hard to work on my own stuff. And I liked seeing that portrayed on screen.
Marcus, I have so much to say. Can you explain to me when you see them working on their stuff, because actively what I saw for 8 episodes were 2 people who did not work on their stuff once. They actively went against the right decision and what they did not communicate, they did not say anything to each other that would permeate a good relationship at all.
Yeah.
So the fact that you say that is blowing my mind. Like everything else, just like, yes, there's voices that had that's really cool. There's music. What are you talking about?
I think that this show is sort of unconventional. I think for me, it felt very real in a lot of ways because of the like when you make a change, right? Like when you grow as a person, it is small incremental changes that happen over a period of time. And so you look back on your life and you're like, whoa, I am a completely different person than I was a year ago. Granted, it could be a hindrance to the show that they are moving at small incremental pace. And at the end, it's not like, yes, they solved all of their problems and they wrapped it in a bow. I think when you are truly working on yourself and trying to grow as a person, it's not a constant growth, right? Like you're going to hit bumps in the road throughout the whole, you're going to have ups and you're going to have downs. And I think that that was displayed in the show. I think that they were trying to have conversations. They were working through their demons. And I don't necessarily think they got there in the end, but they made progress. Hard disagree. Oh my goodness.
Oh my God. Like they didn't work on anything. Like the only thing that the only reason anything gets solved in this is because Marcus, one of my biggest pet peeves of anything, and you know that, is when a problem is solved with drugs. And that's the only thing that was solved during so Lindsay starts off.
I don't even think that was solved, but you're right. Yeah.
Fucking Lindsay starts the show by being a good writer. She continues the show by being a good writer. And by the end of the show, she finds out she's a good writer. Miguel starts it by thinking he wants to be a banker, getting to be a banker, and then getting fired from being a banker. Then he says, well, I guess I don't need to be a banker anymore.
So I see exactly what you're saying. But I want you to look at it from a different perspective, right?
Okay, I'm ready.
You're looking at it from an objective-based perspective, right? So you're looking at it like she was a good writer, and then she was still a good writer at the end of it. But her being a good writer was never in question. What was in question was her belief she was a good writer, right? So she goes in finally getting the validation that she won this award. And that, sets her on a trajectory to destroy her entire life.
If only we could have saw her struggling with thinking she's a good writer before she does that. But that's the beginning of the show.
But it's not about her being good at writing or not. It's about her believing in herself, and she does it, and she's not taking any risks, right?
She did at the very beginning of the show. She took the biggest risk. She left her fiance. She moved to New York.
Yes, but you see that it's built up over years of resentment and things like that. It's building up to this like relationship. Look, I don't want to watch a show about her in a boring ass relationship, slowly realizing that she shouldn't be in one. I think the start of the show with her making this big sweeping dramatic change and then realizing she's in over her head was a good place for it to start, for me at least.
Listen, I'm just saying, if you want me to give a crap about your main character, and listen, I love Mae Whitman so much. I think I do want. I read one review, and it's from the Hollywood Reporter, and it says the leads are great. Their show is not. And that is so much of what I feel about this show. So like, I don't disagree with you that I don't need it for a long time, but there was one song and one song only, and then that was solved. And then she did it. She did the thing. And then like, there's no, like, I don't even know how to put it into words. Like, I just, the things that happened in this show are the things that piss me off about rom-coms and piss me off about shows where one conversation about real feelings, one discussion of working through a problem, but like every time there's the littlest problem, boom, they break up.
Yeah.
And they go over here. And then circumstance and coincidence brings them back together. And then boom, another blow up. Circumstance boom, blow it up. Circumstance. By the end, I was like, okay, listen, you don't belong together. I'm supposed to be rooting for you that you belong together, but I'm like, no, you both don't. And it's not because I didn't think there was love or chemistry, because they displayed that well, because the actors are really good. But like by the end, I'm like, why am I rooting for you two to be together? You both suck at being in a relationship. You're terrible partners. Like, you're both bad at being a partner.
But I think that's real. I think that two people, when they get together in a relationship, are not built to be together, right? Like, I think that is insanely rare for that to be the case. You just must be two very boring people. Like, I think that when you meet a person, you have to kind of like learn them and learn to mesh with them in an interesting way. And it doesn't always work. Yes, I think you're right. I think this does fall into a lot of the sort of like rom-comminess of the genre.
No,
right?
no, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying the opposite.
That Marcus, they don't belong together.
If this wanted to be a rom-com, then it should have been a rom-com where I should have wanted them together. Musicals and rom-coms are like, it did not do either one of those things. It did not do the like, I believe so much in love, and it didn't go hard enough in the realism to be like a different take over here where I'm like, whoa, I'm watching like this gritty, realistic. It like had the show.
Realism isn't grittiness.
Well, yes,
you know what I mean? I know
that's where the phrase like comes from, like the gritty realness of reality, right?
Sure,
like,
gritty can also be messy, right? Real can also be messy, and that's what this show was. It was messy.
It wasn't messy. It was like it was messy, yes, but it was like not because of like realness. Like there wasn't like real like situations that like I could like gravitate towards or relate to or like root for someone or pull something out of or like feel sad for them. Like I never got to that point because I felt like the show didn't know if it wanted to be a rom-com musical or like a This Is Us musical with romantic elements. You know, like I needed it to have one of those takes, and for me it stayed in the middle. So there was these like fluffy, showy numbers about like love and stuff, but then they would try to get to like something real underneath. But like, you know, I never had that moment where I was like gobsmacked with like reality in my face of like, whoa, that hits. Like when you listen to Dear Evan Hansen, right? Great example. It's a shitty show that makes no goddamn sense, but one or two of those songs, like when he sings it, like you're like, whoa, that like hits hard.
No,
like, how I feel like it hits.
I disagree.
Everyone agrees with me. Dear Evan Hansen's music is like
everyone. Just because everyone agrees doesn't mean it's right. Like here's what you're saying. You're saying that it didn't resonate with you, and that is perfectly valid. Like I agree with you. I don't necessarily think that it not resonating with you makes it a bad show. It might not have been what you wanted out of a musical. It might not have been what you wanted out of a rom-com. But I'm telling you that it 100% resonated with me more than anything I've ever watched. More than not anything I ever watched, but like more than like 90%. Honestly, more than 90% of the content I watch on a regular basis, this resonated with me more.
Well, to be fair,
more than any musical I've ever watched. This has resonated with me more than. It's up there with like In the Heights. Like not in terms of quality. Very much not in terms of quality. But in terms of like, oh, I can see myself as one of the characters. I can relate to their struggle in a certain way. That's why I like the show. That's what worked for me. So I would love to. Yeah. Oh yeah. Sorry. I was just saying. I totally get it not resonating with you, but that's a different thing entirely.
I would love for you to talk more about that, because as I was watching this show, I was like, I don't want to tell your story, but I knew why you were giving it to me. I 100%. Was like, oh, I feel like that probably looked like the house you lived in Queens. Like there's like so many like little things that happen because it was New York, because of him code switching and not talking about his heritage and things. Like there's so many little things that I was like, oh, I can see like why. And I also know that I don't know, but I assume your anxiety probably presents itself in a similar way. So like I would love for you to speak more on all that, because like I know that's why it resonated with you. By the end of this podcast, I will explain to you why it's a bad show. You're right. I have not done that yet. I apologize. You are correct in what you said. What I am saying is the show didn't resonate for me, and that does not make it a bad show. You're right. By the end, I will tell you why it's a bad show. But for now,
that's fine.
Just tell me why.
Honestly, I will probably agree with you, but so far I don't agree with the things you're saying.
But
I don't. If I'm putting this up against the musicality of Dear Evan Hansen, In the Heights, stuff like that, it does not hold up in any way. Even the musicality of Frozen, it doesn't hold up compared.
That has to be a whole
shows.
Conversation in and of itself. But please,
100%.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
But in terms of the characters, right? Like we can talk about the characters a little bit. But you have Miguel, played by Carlos Valdez of The Flash. I loved him on The Flash. Like you said, you also loved him.
Love that.
Huge fan. He carried that show on his back. I stopped watching when he left the show. And I stayed around for a long time. I wasn't staying around like every week, but I definitely watched the show, fell off, would catch up to episodes because I was like, I miss him. And then when he left, I was like, okay, well, I'm out too. That show got crazy. Danny Trejo was on it. It's wild.
Still crazy, dude. It's freaking wild. But yes, I agree with you. He was pitch perfect in that show.
And Mae Whitman, I like her in theory, but I don't have strong like allegiance.
You haven't seen that thing that you were like, yes,
exactly. Yeah. So for this show, it's funny because a lot of it, I was like, you better not hurt my boy. Stop making your stupid decisions, figure your shit out, and then talk to my boy. Okay. You're hurting his feelings. Leave him alone. So a lot of them, I like you said, I think, you know, what you said about them, you maybe not wanting them to get together, I think really resonated with me as well, because it was like, I kind of don't want them to get together, right? I think that even when you think about relationships, right, you don't always end up with a person at the right time necessarily.
That's so poignant. Yeah.
So like you can be with someone and maybe it's the right person, but not the right time. There's just so many like little things that happen. And when watching the show, I think I kind of agree that like, yeah, they're cute together. And I could tell that they're both like good people inside, but they definitely need to grow before they end up together.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's because the show is planning on having a season 2 and then they're definitely not going to get it, or what happened. But I think I agree with you what you said earlier, where it just kind of like felt weird that they were together at the end of the show.
It didn't do that work. It didn't do. And honestly, us asking that is the hardest work to do in any rom-com, in any musical. That work, that job is the hardest one, right?
Yeah.
Because I mean, just to take Frozen, right? When you sing "Love is an Open Door," with you, love is an open door. The joke of that song is it's not like that, right?
Yeah.
The joke of that song is you don't see them and it's magically ever after and they're the perfect person.
Yeah.
The joke is that's not it. And then as she interacts with Hans throughout the rest of the movie, and it's all those small little moments that a relationship is built on, right?
Yeah. I think they're trying to do that.
Those small moments are hard.
I think they're trying to do that here, but sort of set in a more real time and with an amount of time that they weren't necessarily given. I think that they could have done more work to fit the story into one season, because I don't know if they were just super confident that they were definitely getting a season 2 or something like. But
no, I think it was just a really cheap show. There's 8 30-minute episodes.
That's
Marcus.
true.
There's no shows that are that short and that small.
Yeah.
Like I think it's just a money thing.
Yeah.
I'm sure they just didn't have a lot of money.
So that being said, like, I think that like it feels real in that way. It feels real because like, you know, love, you might really want to be with someone, but your own hangups are getting in the way and you're stopping yourself. I think that's what a lot of the show is about. It's about you getting in your own way, more so than the world, more so than your own talents not being up to par. It's just you keep getting in your own way. And it's not necessarily your fault, but it is your responsibility to take care of that stuff and figure it out. And I think that we got inklings of that, but like, I kind of do agree with you where I would like to have seen them either finish the whole thing up in one season a little bit better, make the episodes a little bit longer, have another couple episodes at the end of it where they like you feel like they're tighter as a couple, or you feel like they've grown as individuals and are ready for their relationship. But at the end, I think that like where I was like, I'm happy that they figured their shit out and they're ready to move on to the next step. But I don't think that like without couples therapy or individual therapy or something, I don't think that they're going to like be a lasting couple.
Well, and here's the problem, right? You just attributed those things are missing from the show.
Mhm.
That's the show is so small. That's all the that's the show.
Yeah.
Right? Like the show is you're supposed to be either there's supposed to be a Carrie Mr. Big thing where it's the will they won't they back and forth. It's supposed to be the like, you know, the Anna and Hans from Frozen where they're supposed to find each other by the end, and it's not any of those things. Like they want it to be, and there's definitely moments where they're trying to do that, and then there's moments where I'm like, oh, you forgot what you're trying to do. You're doing something else entirely, and it might be fun or it might be funny. We'll talk about them, but like you're missing that point. Right. And then every time they try to hit it, it felt forced because it felt like they were like, oh, yeah. This is what the show's about. And it could be framing, right? It could be that's not what the show is supposed to be about, but that's what the advertisements is.
Yeah.
That's what the theme music
Agreed.
is. That's what like the look and color as they split screen them all the gosh darn time. That's what it looks like it's supposed to be. So
agreed. I agree with you. I think that like you're going into the show not the wrong way at all, but you're going into the show
the way they wanted me to.
The way they wanted you to. You're looking at this couple, you're seeing it's a musical, you're assuming that it's gonna be rom-commy and that they're gonna be happy, whatever. That is 100% valid. And I think that's where the 56% Rotten Tomatoes comes from. It comes from them kind of portraying the show as something, and then when you go to watch it, that's not what you're getting.
Yeah, well, I'm pretty sure the 56% is a bad show, but please go on.
But could that be a bad show, right? Like that's a bad show, right? If you're telling everyone that you're going to get this thing, then when you go and watch it, you're not even
don't
subverting
deliver on that
them.
thing.
You're just not delivering on the thing. That's a bad show, and that's understandable.
Yeah.
But for me, I feel like the way I viewed the show, because I resonated with both of them in different parts of the show, I viewed it as like. And this is not the way you're supposed to view it. But for me, what really worked was I felt like they were two individuals who just happened to like cross each other's path. And I felt like for me, I think the separation was harder in line in the sand. Like I could continue watching the show if they no longer were in each other's lives, and it was just like
it felt forced every time they came together, right?
Yes. Yeah. It felt like
the biggest problem.
It felt for me like I was watching two separate shows, and I liked that. I enjoyed it. I thought that worked for me. But then don't set up this romance thing. I totally understand why there's a big disappointment.
And like how interesting, cool would it have been if they found each other at the beginning and then the whole show they grew apart and then they found each other just at the end, right? Like that would have been
interesting too. That would have been something
satisfying.
That would have been better, I think, too.
That would have been a lot better,
little bit. But I like that I feel like for me, it was like these two separate entities, these two separate forces that I think needed to go off and do their own work.
I mean, Marcus, by the end of the show, they have dated for 5 or 6 months.
That's crazy.
We didn't see any of that.
Yeah.
We saw none of that at all. They said that at one point when she like showed up at his apartment or his house with his family. And I'm like, what? You've been dating for 5 months? That's crazy. That work was not there at all.
That's fair. Old Man Rom says more than Crazy Ex-Girlfriend. Oh, did it resonate with me more than Crazy Ex-Girlfriend? 100%. Look, I am crazy.
We haven't moved to California to chase an ex. I mean, you know, the beauty of that show is like it's not trying to resonate, right? It's trying to like hyperbolize, right? It's like that feeling you've ever had about an ex. This is the extreme of that.
Yeah.
Have you ever been like wondering if you should or shouldn't date this? It's the extreme of that, right?
Yeah.
That's why that show. And I'm actually really glad he brought that up because Marcus, Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, great musical show. Smash. Great musical show. Glee, great musical show. Zoe's Extraordinary
You can't
Playlist,
just say great musical show at the end of every musical show.
I just did. Marcus, all those shows have show-stopping numbers, memorable ballads, deep resonating fixtures of musicality. I have never watched something.
Do they?
Marcus, I love
What's
musicals.
the big show-stopping number in Smash? I hated that
All
show
the
so
numbers.
much. I hated that
Let
show
me
so
be
much.
your star.
Oh God, no!
Broadway, here I come.
my God.
There's so many. There's so many. Anyway, but all the musical shows I've ever watched, this is never not. I've always listened to the soundtracks because at the end of the day, making songs is so impressive to me. I love musicals. You know I love musicals. I'll listen to musical episodes of things. Marcus, can you please explain to me? And I'm trying to be as nice as possible with this statement. Why are all the songs in this show feel like they were written in one of my musical theater nights by one of the worst teams?
Okay, that's
Marcus,
hold up.
no,
Not
let me
every
explain,
song
'cause
in
I just
Crazy
ragged on them
Ex-Girlfriend
real
was
hard.
A banger, okay.
Marcus, some of those songs are freaking genius.
Oh my God,
They got Emmy nominations. I'm not making this up.
I think this.
Rachel Bloom is deeply like praised and honored in the musical theater space for being so clever and smart with her lyrics and her music.
100%. She's very talented,
and she made the whole thing.
She's very talented.
Sure,
but not every song is a banger. Okay.
Not every song needs to be, but I need a couple. Give me one song. Sing me one song from the show.
I am not alone.
Sing me.
I am not alone. There's none for you. The song he sings in the bathroom when he's like, "Oh, I cried during that song. It was so good. It was just really like,
God.
come on.
You're so far gone. I can't even talk to you about it. You're so far gone.
I'm just saying, like, you got to listen to it again. Listen to that one song. It
Marcus,
really doesn't.
I would
nothing
say,
about the show resonated with. Nothing about the show at all. Just like this was dog
Let me get
shit.
through it. Let me get through it. There's 21 songs. There are 21 songs on this show.
Got it.
4 of them were a solid B-side.
I'll take it.
The first song, Can You Ever Know Someone? If you really know someone like you do. Like that one. The one you just mentioned, I like that one. The one that is the title song that plays every episode.
Yeah.
Good song. That's it. Because like the problem is not every episode had a really. I kind of like Tiger Shark. Tiger Shark.
I like that one too. That one's good.
Tiger Shark was okay, but so many. But even those, so many of them had like simple chord structure, simple melody. They had simple rhymes. They like just said what was happening. And then it was like, let me say what's happening. Let me say what's happening. Metaphor. Let me say what's happening. Let me say what's happening. Metaphor. I could see the gears. Like I'm not nobody, right? But I know how to make a comedy song. I do it constantly every week. I witness people doing it. I coach people on how to do it. I know it a little bit. I could see the gears. I could see how they got there. And why I mentioned musical improv is because it felt like a musical improv song where it's like oddly simple, where it like it's just that surface level. It's not giving me a new metaphor I've never thought about before. It's not like hitting
like
me
waving
with
through
like
a window.
literally that song won a Tony, right? Like literally, that was a phrase we've heard.
Yeah.
We've heard. Listen, you can knock it off. Listen, you can sit here, Marcus, and say, just
The
because everyone
musicality.
likes it doesn't mean it's good. But they literally won so many Tonys and it's on every Broadway best playlist in the world. It's driving me crazy that you're saying, you're just because you're with everyone else, it means you're wrong, because there's a reason everyone thinks these things. Waving through a window is a metaphor that existed before, but it had never been said in that way, in that realm, in that voice, and it was monumental. It was everywhere when it first came out, and it's still kind of everywhere because it's a banger. None of that. Tiger Shark, funny song, but like it's kind of simple. all these songs, like the going on the quest for the D&D thing, the circus thing, gosh, she sings like 6 songs sad in a room. Like I can't differentiate between any of them at all. Like, and it's not Mae Whitman. It's not, I don't know Cisco's real name. What's Cisco's real name? Carlos. It's not Carlos Valdez's fault, because again, I found them incredibly charming and competent. And I'm not one of those people that are like, Ryan Gosling shouldn't be in a musical because he can only kind of sing. I like when people aren't like Patti LuPone. I don't need everyone to be Patti LuPone. I want to hear real people singing too. But all those songs, they just didn't. None of them like hit. None of them like hit that moment. Like the best song was the one that they sang in the last episode when they finally came together. And Marcus, it was so good, they needed to play that song on every title card on every episode because it was the only one that was pretty good.
I would say for me, I think the I Am Not Alone song, it was very, very good. That is probably my favorite one. Then Tiger Shark is probably my second favorite after that. I don't know. I agree with you a little bit. I think that like musically,
we can't disagree that some of these songs sucked. Like there's no
100%.
disagree.
I'm not going to defend every
at the
song.
very least. Yeah.
I think for me, I listen to a lot of music, a lot of different kinds of music, but I have a problem listening to an entire album. I get bored. I think that the same kind of music on most albums, I like at max 2 songs. And for me, this album, I like 2 songs mainly, but I didn't, granted, I didn't know if that was me or if that was the songs. So I totally accept what you're saying.
A lot of people are like that, but yeah, I think so. I mean, I just like,
if I'm thinking about like clever musical TV shows, right? Like I'm looking up all these musical TV shows. I've watched a good chunk of them. I've seen Crazy Ex-Girlfriend. I've seen the first season of Smash at least. I don't know how long it went on for.
Just 2.
If I'm trying to think of Smigadoon has 2 seasons. I watched all of that. I watched Gallivant. If I'm trying to think of the best TV show that was musical, had great lyrics and great songs, it is Fly the Conchords.
Yeah, that's like peak of comedy music.
That's peak. It is Steven Universe.
Oh, that's wonderful.
I mean, think about like that end of the first season when Garnet sings, was it Stronger Than You or whatever? Like,
this is Garnet back together, and I'm never gonna stop.
Exactly. Yeah.
So much better. Follow your rules. You're gonna do your fancy tools. Don't trust me on you. Just don't bet it if you're able to.
But yes, Steven Universe, I think, is a great example.
But yes,
of how this show, if this show was more like Steven Universe, I think the show, the music could have resonated a little bit more. I think lyrically and like song impact wise, Steven Universe is probably the best musical show. I think
that I can't think of one that's better off top.
I can't think of one that's better right now either.
No.
But that is very, very high up there for me. And so this is not on the same level of Steven Universe. But for me, it is on the same level of a lot of these other musical shows. Like I think it's on the same level. I think it's better than Schmigadoon's music.
Can I be honest? I've only seen an episode of Schmigadoon and I didn't like it, so I didn't watch more.
I don't think you will like it. But
it just didn't seem good. It seems so schlocky. Like, like the joke was the music is kind of bad. So like none of the music like hit.
I enjoyed it. Yeah,
this is how a Chicago songs, or this is how an Oklahoma song.
That's how a lot of it was. Yeah, a lot of it was like, this is our
song.
hair parody, and I was like, okay, cool.
No, just sing me a good song.
Yeah, but anyway, yeah. So I think that this show, like musically, doesn't hold up to it doesn't even hold up to Crazy Ex-Girlfriend. Well, and I think you're right about that. But I did like a couple of songs, and I don't think that like I want to throw the whole thing in the trash and like shit all over it. I think there's a couple of good songs. I think Carlos Valdez is a great singer. I think Mae Whitman's a great singer too. I think she did a great job.
Old Man Ram just said in the side, fun fact, Rebecca Sugar from Steven Universe and Rachel Bloom from Crazy Ex-Girlfriend are the same age. I think those are two that probably they're some of the best in the biz. I mean, like Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, it's not for everyone, and some of it is a very specific kind of humor that isn't always going to land, but there's no denying that Rachel Bloom is like one of the contemporaries of the best at what she does, right? Same
Mhm.
with Rebecca Sugar. I think, gosh, it's just so hard because I'm actively watching Smash, and yes, it's an awful show, and yes, but some of those songs belong on Broadway, but they're not comedy songs. They're
Mm.
Broadway songs. It's trying to be Dear Evan Hansen, Wicked. It's making those kind of songs, so it's a
Yeah.
different sphere. The closest sphere, I think, is probably Crazy Ex-Girlfriend. It's probably the closest thing I can think of that what this is doing. I mean, Zoe's Extraordinary Playlist is kind of doing the same kind of thing, but that's covers. It's not
Yeah.
original music. High School Musical, the musical, the series is like not, it's too sincere than what this is doing. This is a little, it's supposed to be a little hokey, like that's the point. You know, maybe there's some
Yeah.
animated things that this is kind of like, but it's very specific. There's not a lot of things like this. Not a lot of serious, like there's a lot of comedy here, but it's like semi-serious, semi-comedy
Mm-hmm.
kind of things. I kind of don't know what to compare this to, right? Because like Evan
Yeah.
Hugh is more funny than this is. You know, Wicked's not, Dear Evan Hansen is not what like this is because it's not quite that serious, but it's more serious than Evan Hugh. I don't know. It's very specific. But my point is not this ain't it. Oh, Lexi just texted me. She reminded me about have you heard 36 Questions, the podcast?
No.
It's with Jonathan Groff and another woman who made it that I don't remember her name. Apologies, but it's a podcast where there are 3 episodes of the podcast, and they basically made a musical, a brand new musical, and it's podcast. And it's about these 2 people who the husband found out the wife was lied about a lot of things. So her solution was to bring that like Times article where like if you ask these 36 questions, you fall in
Oh,
love.
yeah.
And throughout the musical, they go through it, and that was like funny, a little hokey sometimes, but pretty serious and romantic. And when Lexi and I were watching this, we were like, oh, this is a lot like 36 Questions, except 36 Questions is good. So you should check out, if you like this, you should definitely listen to 36 Questions.
Nick, we've already shown that nobody else but me like this show.
Marcus, you know how often
the data's there. If you just want to go by the data and the number of Tony Awards this show has won, it's 0. And it's 56% on Rotten Tomatoes, so it's trash.
And you know why it has such a high audience score?
Does it even have a high audience score?
It's 88, yeah.
Oh shit, let me add it. I'm gonna add a 5-star review. Make that
you know
shit
why
90.
You know why it has 88?
90.
You know why it has 88?
Why?
Because no one watched it. Fewer than 50 ratings.
Its
is why
its
got
tomato
88.
meter is only 27.
What does that mean? Tomato meter.
Only that's the official reviews. Only 27 official reviews.
Oh, 27 reviews. Yeah. Well, yeah.
That's not a lot either.
I know, but that's
Nobody's watching the show. Even reviewers aren't watching the show.
I mean, if it had banger songs, I mean, that's how you go viral. Like, if one of these songs was like so good, people were singing it on their playlist, like it would have brought eyes. But none of the songs transcend that. And like, I think if you make a musical show, you have to have 3, right? There had to be like 3 songs on here that would have made people's play. Like people would have been singing in auditions. People would have been vibing in the car. Like when we go on a road trip, we would have played it. Like if we go on a road trip, we will play a Steven Universe song. We will play Flight of the Conchords song. We might even play like a Glee song or a Crazy Ex-Girlfriend song. We will not be playing one of these.
I will. I listen to the songs. I listen to those 2 songs on a regular basis.
Anyway.
But that being said, I think that maybe the show is not the most well put together show. Maybe you don't like the romance, but I really like the characters and I really like the way they're written. I know, like in terms of like realism, like there's no, it's not a gritty, dark show, you know, but it feels real in the sense of like your everyday isn't full of big, dramatic, insane shit. You know, but internally, sometimes it can feel like the smallest choices that you have to make are like insanely huge. And sometimes it can feel like this person that you meet that you've gone on a couple dates with can be the love of your life. You can maybe see yourself like, oh my God, I could marry this person. I see a future with this person. And then you have to like, you know, then you have all these voices in your head telling you otherwise. And I really related to all of that. And I loved seeing that on the screen. I think that, like you said, you know, I think a lot of people share your opinion about most TV shows. They want to go watch a show and see the story unfold in a certain way and see the characters that they want to see on screen. They want to see people who like they feel like deserve to be in love. They feel like they deserve to be together. And I that's valid. That's 100% valid.
Well, I don't mean to interrupt, but I'm saying that that's what the show's trying to make you do, right? Like, I don't need that in a show either. Like, we've there's been tons of shows that don't do that we love. It's just that's what the show's trying to do. It's just not succeeding, right? Like that's what the show's about, right?
The show to me is two
It's not about that?
people. Look, the show is about them getting together. The show isn't telling you that these are the perfect match, that they're soulmates that deserve to, that like are going to be together forever. And I think that's an important difference.
That's fair,
right?
I'll let you have that one.
Okay,
I think you're right about that one. You know why I don't feel bad at all? I was talking with Lexi and I was like, man, I'm about to go in and rag on the show. And then she was like, don't you feel bad? I was like, no. Marcus makes me change my mind and almost everything we've ever watched. And besides Drag Me to Hell, this is the only thing that I think I'm very adamantly on the other side.
Sure.
Like, I think there hasn't been anything. So I'm like, no, I can tell Marcus his opinion sucks. That's fine. I have no problem doing that.
I think that like, here's an important distinction that I want to make about like just this podcast and opinions overall. Like, I think that when we talk about TV shows and when we talk about movies and stuff like that, there's just like need for there to be a rightness or a side or like a personal investment in you liking the show. But I think what really I love about this podcast and doing the podcast is that like it's about what you like. We're not reviewing things that are good. We're not reviewing things that are bad. We're reviewing things that we liked. So I gave you a show I liked. It doesn't matter what the fucking Rotten Tomatoes score is. It doesn't matter how like what other people's opinions of the show is or the movie is. But we like it. You gave me fucking American Mall because you like it.
I gave you the Bratz movie, dude.
You gave me the Bratz movie because you liked it. That shit had like 30% on Rotten Tomatoes. Like
let's see.
I don't know, remember what it had, but it's like
probably less than that.
The fact that I think sometimes people take personal stake.
10%. Bratz movie is 10% all right to me.
I think that sometimes people like project a little bit too much onto the films and TV that they consume. So like they take it personally when you don't like something or when you think something is bad. Like you can 100% think the show is bad. You have the backing of most people on Rotten Tomatoes on your side. And I'm not going to fault you for that. I'm not necessarily debating whether the show is good or bad. I'm just telling you why I liked it.
Yeah, I can't recall a single time and I've given you some bad things. I can't think of a single time when you're like, Nick, this is bad. And I'd be like, you're wrong. And I'm like, that's fine. You can be wrong about it's great. I see it and I see gold. That's just how it works when you like something.
But even then, I feel like,
but you're right. There is a hive-mindedness about reviews and especially like other podcasts. I'll hear it in other podcasts too, where it's like what we're saying is the right answer. And whilst maybe we use that language to get a point across, it's never how we really feel. Where it's like, no. There's 100%. Like this show is for somebody. And I hope they find it.
Yeah, and I think that's what I sound like I'm just like masturbatorily talking about our podcast, but I think that's the only reason I keep doing this. If this were a regular TV show or movie review podcast, I don't think I would like it or like doing it because there's this bravado that comes along with opinions that it's like, oh, my opinion is the right one. I have this opinion and it is right. And if it is not right, then something is wrong with me and I can't have that be the case. You know? And so you watch all these reviews and it's like they're all parroting each other. I rarely listen to a review and hear a unique take on anything. You know, they're saying what this reviewer said, this person's repeating what this reviewer said, this review's repeating that review, and they're all parroting each other. And sometimes you find a reviewer that really resonates with your viewpoints and you can follow them. But it's just so I much rather hear someone like a bad thing than hear about someone liking a good thing. I don't care if someone likes a good thing.
And then even worse when you have to review the mediocre things like the shows that are C pluses, right? Where it's like
Yeah.
I'm sure, like, what's on TV right now? I'm sure, you know what looks pretty good? That looks like okay. Superman and Lois. That looks like an okay show. But like, maybe I'll watch it someday, but I'm pretty sure I wouldn't get past an episode or two.
Yeah.
And then to review that would be so boring.
Yeah, and I get that, but I feel like some reviews act as if like their family was murdered because they had to watch the show. Like they were at a screening of the pilot episode of Up Here, and their family was murdered because they were not home at the time, and so they are riding
Yeah.
with all of this rage that is like
Yeah.
unwarranted, I think.
Yeah, Marcus, that's how I felt. I felt like I was stood up at gunpoint and my mother was going to be shot because I had to watch this stupid show. I'm just kidding.
But there's something to be said about like the liking bad stuff and liking stuff that necessarily isn't good. There's a reason Grey's Anatomy is still on, and and I'll end it there.
That show's fire. That show's fire. That show, the fact that show, I watched that show for 13 seasons and thought it was fire the whole time. Name another show that does that.
I've been
Supernatural,
seeing
maybe?
a lot of people talking about how it's One Piece for white women, and I just love that.
That's exactly what it is.
I love that
Same
so
thing.
much.
Another island, another treasure,
Mhm.
another romance, another failed heart.
I love it.
So
Sorry, I
just
ran on
to-
that rant, but I just feel like
No, you're fine.
it's a very cathartic thing to talk about this show, talk about bad things that we like.
Great. Let me continue to shit on it. So, what? Another thing that I took issue with, where I think it's because everyone came from theater, it felt like they didn't know how to make this show for TV, right? Like the big moment that you say, I'm alone, or I'm not. I'm alone. I'm not alone.
I am
What
not
was it?
alone.
I am not alone, and he's in the bathroom.
Mhm.
Cool idea, the bathroom opening up and doing all that, but the way they made it, and it's probably because they didn't have a lot of money, it felt like a off-Broadway production. Like it was just janky enough to be like an off-Broadway
Okay,
production,
I can see
where it
that.
felt like it's like, listen, if you want it to do it so it looks like theater, I mean, Schmigadoon does that a little bit,
Yeah.
Crazy Ex-Girlfriend does that a little bit. That's a style, you can do that, make it themed theatrical, but like they just seem to be like in the box of what is capable and available in theater and not what is available for like TV. I mean, because like the TV wise, I didn't see anything like clever and like there's
Yeah.
just gosh darn split screens, dude. Like straight up, we filmed this tightly, and then we put them next to each other so many times. And the only other place I feel like I've seen that sincerely was like Dr. Horrible sing along blog. I haven't seen it since then. Like it's like there's other ways to do it. Like you're in like put them in the same room, but they're not really there. And when you film it, or like like have the things bleed in editing, or
Mhm.
I don't know. It's like it's TV, right? Like it's not. It's it played it like it was theater, And I
can see
had
that.
a huge problem with that because it just felt like it was just boxed in.
Yeah.
Like the show's cheapness, I think it was a money thing. Felt like the show was like small but not intimate. Like it didn't know that it could go like out there,
Yeah. I could see that. I think that's a big problem with like musical adaptations, like
Oh, that's
TV
the toughest part, right?
adaptations or musical or like movie musical adaptations. I think they have a lot of similar problems, but usually like a movie will have more of a budget. But I
Yeah.
think you're right. I think they definitely played it like theater, but it was like use the medium you're in. You
Yeah.
could have used it more.
Though to be fair, I guess if we looked at the dollars and cents, honestly, it probably would have been like inventive and creative what they did. It's just I think they had more time, they had more money. I think is really what. Oh, was this filmed during the pandemic? Was this filmed in like quarantine?
I do
Huh?
not know.
It seems like it could have been.
It definitely seems like it could have been. It was very small.
Yeah.
Not a lot of characters.
I mean, there's so little information about because it's such a small show.
Yeah.
Could have totally been like a passion project.
hmm
Could have been like a couple weekends, honestly.
Also, they filmed in New York City, so it was kind of like that's expensive alone. You got to try to
Yeah.
get it out there.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that in that final moment, all the side characters all came around in that circle
Yeah.
kind of makes me think that they filmed it over a very short amount of time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Another thing that really dawned on me during the show is, you know what? I think one of the bigger problems of the show is I think there's two clever shows here. I think if this was musical rom-com show without the voices in the head, it would have worked. And I think if this was a show just about the voices in the head, it would have worked.
That
Because
confuses me so much.
Cool. Let me explain better.
What about it? What about that didn't work?
Well, I think there wasn't time for both, right?
Mhm.
Like, because they had to get to these big numbers, they didn't have time to really deal with what it really means to have voices and people and personalities in your head, you know? And then because they had all these voices in their head, it felt like there wasn't room to really like branch out in a cool musical way. Like it did both, and it felt like it was
Yeah.
trying to do both, and it didn't have time for either one. And mostly what I'm talking about is the voices in the head. I mean, Marcus, I know I've been ragging on this show, and truthfully, I'm trying not to, but
Mhm.
there's one thing that pissed me off, and you're gonna explain it to me, and I'm gonna be like, missed it, whatever.
Uh-huh.
I don't know anything about the third voice in Miguel's head. One's his mom, clearly.
Yeah.
One's the one that screwed his soon-to-be
Uh-huh.
fiance. Got it. And the other one was
It was a bully.
girlfriend?
It was like a I forgot. I think it was a crush that he had when he was a kid.
You think?
I forgot. I think they've definitely mentioned it, but you're right. They
One
didn't spend
time.
a whole episode on it or something.
They mentioned it. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
There should have been a lot more weight given. And then you take Lindsay's. One's the mom. One's the dad. One's the best friend that was kind of mean to her once. Like, the fact that the one that I loved was the dude that had sex with his girlfriend. That one made complete sense to me. I bought his personality. I bought why that was the voice in his head. That was the voice that made him go be a banker, right? Like, I
Mhm.
totally bought that one. The parents, like, I get why they're there, but again, we spent so little time with Lindsay's parents. They weren't even a trope. They weren't even like a caricature. They just like didn't have much at all, right? Like I want like the mom probably had enough, but like the dad, tell me anything about the dad. The best friend that's a voice in her head that is singing songs and we spend so much screen time with. Like I thought what we were gonna get was like a deep dive in these people's lives of it's either flashbacks or present day explaining or whatever to know why were these the voices, right? Like why all the weight on these people where they're the ones getting songs and screen time. And don't even get me started on the one person on freaking Lindsay's, that one girl who smoked cloves, that was a whole episode was almost devoted to her, and yet she knew nothing about her, and it was a whole thing. Don't even get me started on that. But please explain it to me. Like, why didn't we have more time with these voices, right? Don't you wish we did?
No,
Okay, well,
I get what you're saying. I
Yeah,
think that there is a world where you want to spend time and you want to really dig deep into each of these traumas, these people that have caused issues in their lives, these like pivotal moments for this person.
yeah,
But I think for me, when I'm watching the show, what I read it as is people have these hangups, right? People have traumas, people have like things that they've gone through, and you don't meet them, right? Like you don't meet those people that cause those issues. You don't meet the people that cause the pain that people have in their lives. You meet the person with the pain, and you see that influence on them, and so you only know them through the actions that they've taken against the person that you do know, and you only kind of know them through the way that they influence the person that you do know. So I viewed it just sort of as a person's hangups, a person's traumas, and things like that. Kind of, it doesn't matter. Those people who cause that, they don't matter in any way because I don't give a shit about them. I don't care about them. What I care about is the person being influenced by them and how those influences affect their everyday life. That's what I viewed it as. That's what made sense to me.
I buy that. I guess I just wish they didn't have so much screen time and saying the blunt of the bulk of the songs. You know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
it felt like they wanted to do that, and maybe they didn't have time or the money. But like, I think the Tiger Shark guy just seemed like that one worked so well.
Yeah, I
Like
could see that.
like personality wise,
Mhm.
like I understood why he was there. I saw the flashback, I saw the personality. He had a kick-ass song. He's why he's banking, you know. I know because I've done the work myself, like the mom dying and always being there saying he's a sweet boy has influenced them in these ways. And I guess I just wish the show tackled that, right? And like especially with Lindsay with her dad, like he was there so much,
Yeah.
but I know nothing. Like, was there a moment with he was a coroner that really like influenced Lindsay, and that's what
I
like
think
held her
in
back?
one of the
Or
episodes,
like,
she says that she was always having to listen to her father talk about all the ways in which she would die because he was a coroner. And
so we should
so,
have saw all that, right? Like, what a cool number that would have been,
mhm.
right? I If that gave Lindsay a little agoraphobia or a little OCD, or like what we were seeing the show, like what her actions were doing in the show was directly influenced by that. And then we got a moment when her dad had this big number about all the so funny about all the ways you can die, and you can literally like up to that point had saw Lindsay like avoiding manholes and avoiding this, and like it literally like like that. Those are the moments I was waiting for. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? To like justify why we were spending time with them instead of spending more time with Lindsay or more time with Miguel or more time with like them together. And again, could have just been time and money, but like I was really wanting more from them, especially the fact that I don't know why Miguel's little crush was there, right? Like it just, you know,
Yeah.
especially when one of his other voices was so strong. Like I knew why, I knew how, I knew the personality, you know, and like he didn't know his name. That
Mhm.
wasn't the important part, right? It
Yeah.
was a really funny, actually, really funny moment when he found out his own name. Like moments like that, those are funny, you know.
Yeah.
But I felt myself really wanting for more of the voices because I like that too. Like you like that. Like I thought that was a really clever way to talk about mental health, right? Like those
Mhm.
hangups that are sitting there with us all the time and literally chirping in our ears and getting to interact with them. Like I've seen that a little bit, but like you said earlier, I haven't seen it to like this degree
Yeah.
where that's like the shtick of the show, you know?
Yeah.
Whereas like when they were about to have sex and they were right there, that was so
Mhm.
interesting. I think I just wanted I wanted there to be more payoff for it. That's all, you
I
know?
get that. I liked it a lot, and I also understood,
Yeah.
like, from a theatrical perspective, like they were maybe going for like a Greek chorus kind of like inspirational thing, like this
Yeah.
looming presence that's always there dictating your like actions.
Yeah.
I like that. I like that parallel. I see what you're saying. I guess they could dig in a little bit deeper into some of that if they had a season two, deal more with the father, actually get to see him and what their
Yeah.
interactions are like. But I think that it's just like, I think also these people that influence you and impact you have their own entire lives, right? Like I get the Miguel thing. That one worked really well because that person is no longer in his life. The mom, maybe we could see a little bit more where they're like really some
Not
pivotal
even a
moments
lot.
in his
Something.
youth
Yeah.
where
Yeah.
like, yes, I feel like a season two that would be nice to see for sure.
Opportunity for a super tragic song or a
Mhm.
super funny song about like how
Yeah.
she like built up Miguel's confidence and then she's gone, right?
Yeah, I think
How is Miguel supposed to be confident without her, right? Like that's
yeah,
I totally see that. I get
yeah.
it, but like I wanted them to sing it.
It sucks. It sucks because I feel like I could see this show being a few seasons long and getting to all that stuff. Like it felt
Yeah.
like season 1 was definitely like, okay, yeah, we dealt with the relation because the Scott Porter ghost, I forgot the banker ghost, whatever. He was very relevant to what was going on in the situation because he was sort of like a very big hang up. He was the reason that like Miguel was having such a hard time and
Yeah.
trusting Mae Whitman and all that stuff. So
Yeah.
him kind of dealing with that was good. And like you said, we could have more of that in the future if there was going to be a
That one did
season
it. That one
two.
paid it off.
Exactly. Maybe
That's
more
why it was so hard.
payoffs would
Yeah.
make the rest of them work a little bit more. I could
I think
totally
so.
see that. But also,
Yeah.
if they didn't want to do that, I could also I feel like therapy and them actually working through their problems, I feel like they started to kind of like address and acknowledge is kind of what this first season was. Like they're just
Yeah.
looking at their problems, right? They see each other, they see through each other. I think that was really nice. But they're not necessarily getting rid of these voices quite yet. And I think that additional seasons could do that work and make that interesting.
Oh, I really thought they were going to do the Fleabag thing and they were going to see each other's voices. Did you think that was going to happen? I
No,
really thought. I was like,
but
sure. I
but
would have
they
like on my
did.
bingo card,
Yeah.
maybe for like a minute at the end, but I really thought that would be like because at the big first episode, Lindsay says you don't have to listen to them, and he's
Mhm.
like, what? Which is why again I thought that was the shtick. I thought so much would come out of that, but it kind of didn't. Ended up being more about the circumstances of everything. But like I really thought that was going to happen. I don't know if it would have been good or bad, but I like it was just on my bingo card. I thought
Mhm.
I saw it coming, and it didn't.
I think it did. Like you said, that moment where she says, "You don't have to listen to them." I think that she's acknowledging that she sees something in him that she sees in herself. And
No,
yes,
I
there's
meant
still
like actively. That's what I
but
thought she was gonna talk to Miguel's mom in
no,
his
that would be
voice.
weird. That's not what that's not
That is
what those
musical
things
theater.
are.
I thought it was gonna be. I thought that's what it was like going towards. I don't disagree with you, but
Yeah,
I
yeah.
really thought that's what they were doing. And honestly, I feel like it'd be kind of funny. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe it doesn't work. I don't know. I'm just saying, as they're like there, and Tiger Shark comes up, and Lindsay has a conversation with him really quick as he pops up. Like I
Mhm,
thought,
mhm.
that's where we're going. I just really did. And then I thought it would be like, it would feel like a sitcom almost with like all these people living in an apartment
I
together
hate
and
whatever version of
interacting.
this show that you're making.
I really thought that that's where we were going. I would have bet so much money,
But
but I was wrong.
I think it would be for me and the messages that I was getting from the show. I think it would be problematic if they started to deal with each other's problems in
100%.
right? Like I think that it's on themselves to deal with these voices and to kind of like not let them control their lives. And I think that was what season 1 was mainly about, right? Like not letting these things control your life. And they didn't get rid of them. They didn't like figure it out through growth,
Barely at
but
all.
they did, grow a little bit and at least acknowledge that they're there and go against what they think, or what that inner voice is telling them.
Yeah, I think you know what really would have like really helped me. I think it was in the third or fourth episode where they found each other again, and Lindsay found him because she wanted to write a story about him. I think if they wouldn't have went apart for a stupid reason again at that point, because at
And they
that point it
still
already
stayed
happened once.
together. Yeah.
Yeah, and like it happened like 3 times where like we saw like the beginning of an argument between 2 people and then it didn't have time in. It went to the next episode and they weren't together, right? Like it happened
Yeah.
there. It happened again with the kiss with his ex. It was just like, and they're not together. And I'm like, oh, we're not gonna see the conversation? Like oh, okay. I thought there'd be like a big number. No, okay, cool. All right.
Yeah.
Let's
Yeah,
move
yeah.
on, But they again, I think they just didn't have the time.
I agree. I agree.
30-minute episodes is hard,
Yeah.
right? Nobody does 30-minute episodes anymore. And while they're doing voices in heads and singing and
Mhm.
show-stopping numbers too, all in a 30-minute,
It's a lot.
that's wild.
Yeah.
Well, how long was Crazy Rich Girlfriend, Crazy Ex-Girlfriend? That must have been 45-minute show, right?
I don't know. It might have been a half hour.
No. Wow, that show's even smarter than I think it was than I was saying before. Than if it really is. That show was very clever.
I do want to say this before we end because I feel like we're heading towards the end. I think that the show was incredible in terms of like the sort of like representation. I think seeing like at least for me, like you and your bard in D&D, I felt very represented in this show.
Suck it.
I felt like just being able to see somebody on screen who like was Hispanic and like having to deal with this like imposter syndrome of like, okay, I want the thing, I want to obtain like money and all this stuff because that's what matters, that's what people care about, that's the goal in life, but really like it's not fulfilling in any way and they want to be happy. It doesn't actually make them happy and they left what makes them happy because this other thing provides security.
Yeah, that was really cool.
Mhm.
And they had to leave being an artist, right? They had to leave
Yeah.
that behind.
Yeah.
And like the show paints it where it's like he like grew up, like he thought he was growing up to get away from it. But like the show presents like, no, you could have stayed. It's okay that you left. It's okay that you wanted the Corinthian and these things, but like
Yeah.
both were options,
Yeah.
and it like I like that it didn't like make Miguel an asshole for wanting that,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
Like I thought it was going to, and it didn't, and that is something I really appreciated because some people would rather. Tick Tick Boom did that really well too. Remember Jonathan Larson's friend stopped being an actor
Oh,
to
yeah,
go
yeah,
get
yeah.
a job, and he got the penthouse apartment. Same thing, like that is an option. You're allowed to want to leave. There's this glamorous life of the artist, always struggling and not knowing where your next
Mhm.
meal comes from.
No, it sucks.
Sometimes it sucks and it's not realistic and it's not for
Yeah.
everyone. Sometimes it is glamorous and you romanticize it to get through the hard times.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, but
But that was very important. I think him,
yeah,
you know, he has a line where he says like he was too Hispanic for the white neighborhoods, and then when he
yeah,
moved to New York, he was too white for the Hispanic neighborhoods, and like that's something that I feel like, you know, you definitely relate to. I feel like I relate to. It's just like
hell yeah.
there's this aspect of you where you're like having to be between two worlds sometimes that is not really represented in a lot of shows.
I
And I
used
thought
to
that was
code
cool.
switch a lot more growing
Mhm.
up. I actively try not to now.
Yeah.
You know, I've always spoken with a little more robust vocabulary and way I speak a little bit.
Mhm.
But then I'm also very much like, yeah, what's up? Cool.
Yeah,
Nice.
yeah,
Like how I grew up talking. So now I actively try to speak all the same now as an adult where I'm like, I don't want to lie about who I am anymore. Where I see
yeah.
it sometimes though, when I walk into a situation where it's a lot of white people or maybe it's supposed to be more professional. And I'm like, what's up, fam? And they're like, hi. And I'm like, ah, cool. You weren't ready for that, but this is how I am. So deal with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
No,
it's and it's been
definitely.
an interesting journey to get there though. Right?
The code switching thing is something like I took away from the show and I loved
Yeah.
seeing, but like I grew up in the projects. I did not speak like this. And I used a lot of slang, you know, and spoke in a way that I feel like a lot of people wouldn't deem as like office appropriate.
Yeah.
And I actively had to like one day sit down and change the way I spoke and like mentally be like, no, I can't speak like that. I have to speak this way. I can't speak like that. And
Yeah.
like go through that process in my brain in order to adapt and permanently switch my code to fit into a different world and a different lifestyle that more matched like what I was shooting for in terms of growth.
Yeah. And the show does that well. And Miguel almost like not apologizing for it, right?
Yeah.
I appreciated that. It was a big strength of character. Lexi, when we were watching, and again, just to talk, we barely had the chance to, but the two main actors really did a phenomenal job.
Yeah.
She knew him from Flash, so she's like, how does he go from being so like nerdy and then so smooth? And I'm like, he's a good actor.
Yeah.
He had a hard job going back and forth,
did.
you know, where he
He's
never
very charming.
lost. Yeah, he never lost a little bit of that nerdiness underneath
Mhm.
while he was banking, but it was still pretty silky and pretty smooth. Talking
Yeah.
to the juice guy, talking to his
Mhm.
fratty friends, quote unquote. But then, you know, trying to be an artist the other times. It was really good.
Yeah, and the like racial things like everyone calling him Jimmy, even though his last name is Jimenez. Like that whole thing, I thought like that was really important to see. And May being like, "Oh, you're lying," and it's like, no, it's not lying. It's just like a freaking weird racial thing. And when you're trying to move up in the corporate ladder in this world, like it just gets wider and wider, and you're having to like navigate that whole thing, and that's complex. And I really
Yeah.
enjoyed seeing that. Seeing someone else struggle with that, I feel like isn't always shown in this way on TV, and I thought that was
Or as
really,
the
really
main
cool.
character, right?
Yeah, and with Mae Whitman too, I want to give her character some compliments as well. But like what she was going through, where she was like going for safety, right? Like she had this sort of like trauma. She's had this sort of like upbringing that really focused on her finding safety and security. And so she ended up in a relationship that was unfulfilling because it was safe. That's something I definitely relate to. And I definitely had to end that relationship. But like sometimes
Oh wow, yeah, I didn't even think of that connection.
Yeah.
It was you 100%.
Uh-huh. Yeah. And sometimes you have
Wow.
to like go through that and realize that like, oh, safety sometimes is okay and understandable that you want to go for that, but like that's not going to be the thing that's going to bring you happiness. You have passions, you have like dreams, and you have to chase those a little bit. And I feel like I really resonated with her character in that aspect as well.
And I really like that the show did not say one way or the other was right. They're both
That's
right. They're both valid.
huge. That
Yeah.
that was huge that they did that too. Like they didn't paint her as a villain for kind of blowing up her life in that way. And like she went back and tried to apologize, and everyone
That was
hated
funny.
her for it, which is also valid. They're allowed to. She did a shitty thing.
Yeah.
but
That was
she's not a
pretty
bad
funny though when
person
she
because
showed up.
She did it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, she was in their eyes, but that's okay too, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
You're gonna be a bad person for standing up for your beliefs sometimes in someone's eyes.
When we finally had that conversation with the mom in the car, that was like them circling the mom for me and being like, okay, that one's
Mhm.
done. I got it. I figured it out. And when the mom said, you're not very different than I am, that was a moment I was like, oh, I see. Yeah, there are these parallel, because you think the mom is like, I don't know if we should do, and you always think I'm not like my parents, but
That's
somehow we
true.
always end up like them a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Which is really interesting and fascinating. And
Mm-hmm.
I do want to point out that first number, I do like it.
Okay, good. Hell
When
yeah.
you're fine, when she's brushing her teeth and doing, and it's
Yeah,
fine.
yeah,
It's like,
yeah.
oh, we woke up at the same time. Yeah. To know someone,
Mhm.
to know someone you do. It encapsulated that opening perfectly. Like,
Yeah,
that was a
I
good
thought that was good.
opening number.
Use.
I just wish the rest of the show stayed at that level of
I could see that. I think some musical
cleverness
shows have a
and-
song in the moment because they feel like they need to. And
that's what it felt like a lot of the
Mhm.
time.
This one did.
It was
that.
like it felt like they wrote the script and they wrote down song goes here,
Yep.
circled it, handed it off, and they were like, cool, let's what's the song?
Yep.
As opposed to like finding it organically and
Mhm.
more interesting. Or I mean, everyone does it different. Sometimes you start with the song, sometimes you start with the script. It's always different, but what you just said was so correct. It felt like they wrote it. The
Yeah.
song goes here.
I also think that at a certain
song
point,
about sadness.
Yeah,
circle.
I think when you get enough accolades, I feel like too many people are telling you yes. Like, no offense to Lin-Manuel Miranda, I love him, but
He did bring it on in the musical.
he's too.
Right.
High,
We don't talk
too
about
high
it.
up, and no one's telling him he's wrong. You know what I mean? And I
You
feel
know
like
what the problem is?
these
He
people wrote
keeps-
Frozen, and no one's telling them they're wrong after
The
that.
problem is Lin-Manuel keeps freaking swinging, and he keeps like Encanto is a brilliant Disney movie. You know what I mean?
It's great. Yeah,
and like Tick Tick Boom, when I heard they were gonna let him direct, I was like, guys, I know he's Lin-Manuel, but you're gonna let him direct the whole movie? He can't do that. Tick Tick Boom is a freaking phenomenal
he's
movie.
very talented, but I'm just saying that there's gonna be some.
There's gonna be another
times-
Bring It On.
There's gonna be another Bring It On.
On.
There's gonna be times where you have to tell them no, but
there
no one's
was.
gonna be there.
What was the monkey thing on Netflix that no one watched?
Oh my god,
Lin-Manuel.
you're right. Yes,
He made the music and he
Yes.
acted in it, and no one
and
talks
no one
about
watched
it
that.
because Vivo, right?
Vivo. Yep.
Oh, and Lin-Manuel, he was in Mary Poppins too. Nobody talks about him
Yeah.
in the immortal
The HBO show,
what is it called? Immortal Engines is
the
something
Golden
else. It's called-
Compass TV.
the Golden
show,
Compass
yes.
thing. Nobody thinks
That's
that's his,
That's
so
true.
but when you swing as hard as he does, and nobody cares about that stuff. But yeah, I agree with you. I think
Yeah.
I think it's a husband-wife duo. It
Mm-hmm.
seems like it was. I mean, I'm reading here. It's a new musical. They put it up in LA, and
Mm.
obviously it did not take off.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So everyone makes musicals all the time, and these people come from notoriety, so it like got made, but maybe
100%.
it wasn't quite there,
Yeah.
or maybe
No, there's a lot of stinky musicals, and I feel like I think that this one could be better if it continued and really like focused in on the missing aspects of the stuff missing from season 1.
Yeah, and I think some of it's the script. Some of the lines that May and Carlos have to deliver, they deliver them well. But because I was being so critical, I was able to take a step back listening to some of these lines, and in a vacuum, some of them are pretty bad. I there was one time where a time or two I looked at Lexi and I repeated the line back, and I was like, "Is that what they just said?" And she was like, "Yeah." I was like,
Mm-hmm.
"That was a bad line. That needed a
Mhm.
rewrite." I'm not even that good of a writer, but like that's not one that I would It was
Yeah.
like, that's how you make me feel. Or there's just like a couple like bad lines that I was
Yeah.
like, cool,
Although
cool,
I
cool."
will say this about some of the stuff, man, a lot of the stuff really resonated with me.
I know.
There was
Please
that
tell
song
me.
where he's like "Love Halfway." where like, oh, I'm gonna like be in love with you, I'm gonna like love you, but like I'm never gonna get hurt or whatever. I was like, oh shit, like definitely been like, I could do this without getting hurt. I could,
Yeah,
and you're stupid. And I was like, no,
Yeah.
you're a dumb dummy, and you need to learn. Or
And
you
know
are not
what's-
alone. Being seen and realizing you're not alone.
I know, but then you have something like that, and then you have a song that does like the exact same thing, like Michael in the Bathroom, and it's like one of those songs is a very good song, and one of those is a very not good song. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying there, right? Like that's one of those is a banger. It's not the one they gave Carlos to sing.
Have you watched that musical though?
That's a crappy musical, yes,
Mm-hmm.
but that song is a banger.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the songs are bangers in there. This is what I'm saying.
Mhm.
That song got to Broadway that musical got to Broadway just because a couple of those songs were pretty good.
Yeah.
You know, fun fact,
Short-lived.
that's where From Everything Everywhere All at Once, what's her face? Stephanie Shu. She was in the original production of that.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, she's a Broadway girl. Anyway, so shoot, there was one more thing I was gonna say, and then we could have finished. You were just saying it. What were we just saying?
Musicals, you love them. This was your favorite show ever that you watched. You love.
I lost it. I don't know.
Okay.
Lost it. I don't know.
Sorry.
Oh, I remember. There was just one more bad thing, and then I'm done.
Okay.
I was so excited. I was not excited about the drugs, Marcus. I hate drugs.
Okay.
I think it's so cheap. It's so like, and then they have a drug experience. That's why there's music, and that's how we find what we need to find. That's how we fix it. I hate it. You know it. I'm very liberal about a lot of things. I don't
Except
like
drugs.
It's ruined so many people's lives. I don't think it's worth it. I think you should burn them all and never have any. I'm very, very like, and that's not even say they should all be legal. We should do all those super liberal things, right? Because that's how you fix the problem. When we crack down on the prescription drug pills, it went from 20,000 people a year to dying to 100,000 people dying. Like that doesn't work. I know that, right? That's not what I'm saying.
Mhm.
But drugs aren't good, and I hate it when it's in a narrative. But when Miguel came out, and there was in Legend of Zelda font Miguel, and they were about to play the game,
Mhm.
I was so excited. I was like, okay, show, great. I'm back in. I'm here. Okay, cool. We're gonna have a video game musical number,
Mhm.
Miguel, and I was so disappointed with that song. I like, and it was so simple. Oh, he's gonna walk through, and he's gonna have more armor, and he's gonna put the more armor on.
You're right.
And,
Yeah.
and the voices are
I
gonna
didn't like that
leave
one
in a
either.
treasure chest. It was just like there were so many pieces that were there
Yeah.
ripe for the picking,
Mhm.
right? Like in the actor they got to, what's his name that they got to be there during that number, the
Wizard
gosh,
guy.
what's his name? Yeah, Norm Lewis. Norm Lewis is like one of those freaking Broadway actors that is like iconic. I
Mhm.
saw him and the other guy who was Magoosh. Those are like big gets, Marcus. Those are like big gets. And the fact that he did this, I was like, oh, wow. That was real bad. Oh man, you really wanted to be on TV, huh? Because that did not work.
I know Broadway
Wait.
people are famous technically, but like how famous? Like
Famous enough that you didn't know
how
who he
much
was.
it would it cost for us to get one on the podcast? I guess we did have a Broadway person on the podcast.
We did.
Yeah, look at us.
Marcus, we could get Broadway people.
Mhm.
They don't pay Broadway actors enough to be like a Tom Hanks.
Yeah, yeah,
this
yeah.
guy is on the level of Tom Hanks in the Broadway world, but he
Yeah.
doesn't get that kind of money. So we could probably get him. Honestly, my biggest regret in life is that I didn't love this show, because now it feels like we probably aren't going to ask Carlos Valdez to be on this podcast. Because if I love this show and you love this show, we probably could have got him on. And I'm forever sorry about that. I am forever sorry.
Wow.
About that seems like a gettable get.
I love him, and I am saddened by that. I would love to have him as. I don't know if I could handle him as a guest because I would so desperately want to be friends with him.
He was a Star Kid?
Oh wow!
He helped co-wrote Me and My Dick, which is what they wrote right
Mhm.
before the Harry Potter musical.
Yeah.
And he played bass for the Harry Potter musical.
Wow.
And was
I knew he
featured
was
on
like a musical
tracks
kid.
on Twisted.
Because they did the Flash episode where that was a musical, and he was like, "Oh yeah, they all had like musical backgrounds."
Yeah, I knew that.
Yeah.
But oh crap, that's so cool. I didn't know he was a Star
Yeah, and
Kid.
you ruined
bad.
it. So take
I'm
back
forever
everything you
sorry.
said. take back
Marcus,
everything you said.
this was the best show I've ever seen in my life.
Thank
Every
you.
musical number slaps.
you.
I hope
Thank
I'm
you.
gonna
Yes,
go.
Yes,
I am gonna go. I'm gonna go to bed right now listening to The Quest and A Christmas Prayer
Uh-huh.
and What If and
Bangers.
Smart Baby.
Bangers. Let's go. Thank you. Best show ever. Guys, come on our podcast, please. Mae Whitman could have been on our podcast. Come on.
She seemed too big. Mae Whitman's like, she does a lot of stuff. And she's been working since she was like 6. And she does a lot of voiceover work too. I think she's kind of too big. She was little Susie and Johnny Bravo.
You're thinking too small.
You're telling me I'm thinking, okay.
Thinking
cool.
too small.
I just said we can get Cisco.
You're thinking too small. And I'm saying we could get Mae Whitman.
And I'm saying you're a fool.
Look, we could probably get Tom Cruise. We let him talk a little bit about Scientology. And
I don't even know how we would get like connected with it.
we go to his
like
church. We go to his Scientology church. We work our way up the ranks. We lose like millions of dollars. We go into debt, but we get there. Just saying. We hurt a lot of people along the way, and we'll get right where Tom Cruise is.
We'll hurt so many people along the way. We'll get that's the goal for the Marcus. Marcus, anything else you'd like to bring up about Up Here?
I loved it. I connected with a lot of the characters. It's not a perfect show. It's arguably maybe not a good show.
Let's just let me read a
liked it a
couple
lot.
Rotten Tomato ratings for you. Here,
That's not going to
Joyce
change
Slanton-
anything for me.
Hold on, no.
Perfect.
Joyce Slatton from Common Sense Media said, "Up Here takes its time warming up. It's true, but the rewards are worth waiting for."
Oh, that's wholesome.
John Paul King, Washington Blade said, "Up Here boasts an extremely polished, sharply cinematic aesthetic that goes a long way towards softening any resistance to its musical conceits." James Cruz said, "Pre-millennial and dating angst has never sounded so good or provided quite such entertaining viewing." You know, so you're not the only one.
That made me hate the show all of a sudden. I don't know why.
Because someone else liked it.
Lower the Rotten Tomato score a bit more, please.
Okay, here,
so I can like it.
help you better. Adam Block from Ready Steady Cut said, "Up Here is a romantic comedy musical that largely fails in all 3
How
movies of
dare you
genres."
say that about the greatest show to ever been
Matt
made?
Roush from the TV Insider said, "I'm a sucker for musicals, but despite some fairly catchy tunes and the considerable charms of its lead, there were times I wanted to beg Up Here to unplug the jukebox in
How
their hands."
dare you? Also,
Okay.
why? That's a weird thing. I feel like you can watch some reviewers like try to be clever. Like they're like, "Oh,
Yeah.
I'm gonna come. Oh, I'm gonna come up with something clever," and then they don't.
I think Angie Han nailed it when she said the leads are great, their show is not. And that's what I'll leave us with.
I thought the show was great, Nick, but I'll ask you your opinions. Nick,
Okay.
did you like the show?
No, I really didn't. It was very bad. I'm glad I watched it.
Mm-hmm. Would you continue watching the show if there's a season 2?
Marcus, I think you liked it too much for me not to. I want it to be better, not because I enjoyed the experience, but I do love the leads,
Mhm.
and I do want you to be right.
Mhm.
I would love for you to become right in a season 2. So yes, I would continue to watch it, hoping for you that it got better.
I disagree with the rightness and wrongness. I think I like the show, and that's not going to change. That can't be wrong. I don't necessarily know if I said the show was as good
Good?
as you think.
I- You inference that it's at least mediocrely good,
Mhm.
and I would disagree with that statement.
I enjoyed it.
I'm so glad you did, and I
enjoyed it.
hope that it gets better if it continues.
I think that there's just something to be said about making a show that people can see themselves in and resonate with that
That's true.
isn't seen all the time. And that's really my biggest takeaway from the show.
And the truth is, musical shows get made so little because they're so hard to make because there's so
Mhm.
much more involved that anytime one comes along, I'm gonna, even if it's
Yeah.
the second season of this, I'm going to watch
Yeah.
it. You know,
That's good. I truly did cry in almost every single episode. So it definitely did work for me.
need one good song, you know,
I get
and
that.
you can stand the test of time.
Yeah.
So like if season 2 comes and it comes with that one song that's on
Mhm.
that I'm gonna audition with, right?
Yeah.
It'll
yeah.
hold a place in my heart forever. It just needs
That's
that.
a good point of like of success for a musical theater thing is like if
Being in
people
my
would
book.
audition for it, then like or audition with it, then that's a good sign.
Yeah.
Okay. would you recommend the show? No. Okay. That's understandable.
No.
I also
They should
don't
go-
think
they
I
should-
would
they-
recommend the show.
Yeah, they should go watch Smash instead.
No, I definitely don't recommend that. I like the
Ugh.
show a lot, but unless you are, I think, similar to me, I don't
Yeah.
think I would recommend the show to anybody
Sure.
else. Like even musical
hear that.
theater people, I don't know if they would like the show just because it is musical theater. You know?
Yeah. It misses some of the tenets that make people who like musicals like this. So I think
Yeah.
I agree with you. This is a very specific kind of show that you would give to a specific kind of person. It's not
Yeah.
a broad, show to give to lots of people.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas some things transcend, like Steven Universe, even though it's very specific, it transcends. So you tell everyone to watch it, right?
Yeah.
Well, Marcus, next week we will be doing Guardians of the Galaxy Volume
Woo!
3.
Volume
In the meantime,
3.
Please leave us, rate us, and review us on iTunes and Spotify, wherever you're listening to this podcast, or on YouTube. Give us a thumbs up. If you would like to, you can join the Patreon, patreon.com/nowtrythiscast, and join the conversation. You get to join the Discord. You get to vote on the challenge. That will be coming up really soon. Have an influence. You be our third best friend. You tell us something shitty to watch so we can rag on you. That's the point. That's why you do it. Or maybe you are able to share that love with someone else. And that's why we do this podcast.
Mm-hmm. That was beautifully put, Nick. Guys, thank you so much for joining us. We love you. And remember to go out there and try things.
Bye.
Good night.
Friends get together so they can try things. How about it? It's podcast so that you can try things. Now we will stop singing so that we can all now try this.
You
Alrighty.
shit on the floor?
Sometimes I'm teaching kids chess, dude.
Oh, I thought you meant in
Three-year-olds.
your apartment. I was like, what are you talking about? You don't I know you have a couch.
No, these kids. I mean, they're
Uh,
little kids. I have to get down with them.
Nah. Be like, yo, sorry, Paul, or whatever the dad's name is. You gotta set this kid up on a table. My knees hurt.